Hey, second graders, this is going to be our Friday art project for this week. We're actually going to draw a still life. I found this idea online and it actually, let me start at the beginning. It's a still life, it's a cup, and then it has colored pencils in it and you're going to draw it. So the way that they did their still life was they made their cup all in pencil and then they only colored the colored pencils. I'm gonna kind of let you decide, but I do like that idea. Here's a bunch of them put together. So I'm gonna talk about what you need to do. And then once I'm done sharing my slideshow, then I will switch over to my document camera and then we can start drawing. But you can always refer back to this. Okay, and when you need to pause, feel free to do so. All right, so what you need to do first is choose a teacup or a glass. I tried some different ideas, just looked through the kitchen, and then what you're going to do next is choose 2 or 3 colored pencils, markers, or crayons if you don't have. Colored pencils is what I suggest, but if you don't have those, markers would be fine as well. Set this up on a few pieces of white paper so that you end up having some nice shadows. Try turning your kitchen or whatever room you're in, your lights on or off so that you can see the shadows. Which way do you get the best shadows? Probably with the lights on. I chose this teacup. It's special to me because I got my mom one just like it, and she drinks tea or coffee from it every day. So I have the same one. Now on this last slide, a still life is just what it sounds like. It's something that you set up and you need to keep it in the same position. Say you work on it all day and then you're going to go to bed and you want to work on it the next day. You do need to leave it set up exactly the way it is and don't let anyone touch it or move things. It's really important when you do a still life to study your objects. You really need to be observant. You know, what do you see really? I mean, you're seeing shadow and light. And as you can see in this teacup, the light source is coming from this direction because then behind the teacup, it's got darker shadows. This one isn't shaded quite as much. And here, I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see it better. But you can see the shadows down here and see how there are areas that the light really hits. So those are a lot lighter. And in order to make that happen, you need to notice the darkness around the white parts. Okay, let me make that a little bit smaller. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to my document camera. So give me a second. There we go. Okay, so what you're going to need, I've got some pretty nice drawing pencils. And I've got a kneaded eraser. That's what this is called. But you can just use any pencil that you have, any eraser if you need it. I've got my favorite pencil sharpener here. And then, like I mentioned before, you're going to need a couple of colored pencils or a couple markers. And then what I did was, here, I'll show you my live. Here's my live still life from the top view, that is. But I'm setting this up on white paper on my countertop further out in front of me. Hang on a sec, I gotta plug in my charger. I don't want my computer to run out of juice while we're doing this. Okay, so I'm looking at my still life. And I really want to spend some time studying, getting it set up the way that I like. right, so now I'm going to start sketching. And you can have your paper any way. Like, let's say that you use a taller glass. You might want to have your paper this way, but since my cup is short and squatty, I'm going to do it this way. I also think it's nice not to draw right in the center of your page. So I'm just going to kind of study what I'm looking at. And then I'm going to just sort of lightly start to draw my cup. Now remember, these are not easy, and you need to try not to get frustrated. Art does not have to be perfect, and you can always fix your artwork. So that's why it's really important to start out lightly and really look at, what am I seeing here? So right now I'm drawing the top of my cup. As you can see, I just kind of go around like this until I feel like what I'm drawing looks like what I'm looking at. I feel like I need to make the top a little wider. Okay. And then I'm going to draw the handle. Kind of looks like an ear. Now, the neat thing about still life is you really can set up anything. And I grabbed a couple things to show you. I remember a few years ago when my daughter Sophie had an art class in high school, and she had to draw an onion. So I think it was an onion just like this. And then I showed my students the other day when I shared, I've got this little guy. I like to set this up and draw this too, because you can position this thing in many different ways. You guys have probably all seen these before. And I've even got these really cool pine cones. And you can mix things. You don't just have, like, I could put the pine cone with the cup, or I could put the pine cone with the little guy even to set up a still life. So, all right, let me get back to my drawing here. All right. Once you start to get some lines that you feel pretty good about, you can kind of go over them and get them a little darker. And then you're going to want to start really noticing where some of the shading is. Now I have these kind of fancy drawing pencils that have lead. There's 2B, 4B, 6B. And the higher the number, the darker the lead will be. But it also just really depends on how heavy-handed you are with your shading. And you're going to want to notice under the cup, the shadowing on the white paper that you've set up. So I am going to do even though my cup is a pretty shade of blue, I'm going to stick to using the method that I originally found this art project. So I'm just going to use pencil for my cup, but then I'm going to have my colored pencils in color. Now, when you're drawing your colored pencils, you really do need to look at where are they positioned in your cup. Like I see that my blue colored pencil is above the red, and then the green is sort of in front of that. But I think I'm going to, so you really have to look at what are you seeing. So I'm going to start to draw this colored pencil that's a little bit further away. And actually in a minute, I'm going to show you a drawing that I am further along in fact, closer to being done. And then my blue colored pencil goes up this way. And I think it's kind of cool looking if you choose colored pencils that are maybe not the same length. These two are basically are, but my green one is a bit shorter, and I just think it adds some interest. Later I'll come back in. I'm going to take my eraser now, and I'm just going to erase lightly because the pencils are in front of the cup. This pencil's a little bit crooked, but like I said, your art, you just have to do the best that you can. And you know, you can always start over if you want. You don't want to start over a bunch of times, but if you need to start over, you can. And I am just using plain white paper that I hope everyone has. Now I also want you to notice that the colored pencils, you can see shading and light and dark and shadows. And right now I'm going to shade with pencil, but later when I go over these with colored pencil, I'll go over, I might even use a dark burgundy on the red. I'll show you what I mean in just a sec. So, I've got this shade of red. Let me dig through my pile and see what else I have. And then this is a lighter red. So I think I'm going to use this. I'm going to go back and look. You have to continue to study. Oh wait, I'm doing the blue one right now. So I'm going to use like a lighter blue and a darker blue. And I also see that there is some area, see right here where it's lighter. But what I'm going to do is take this darker blue and I'm going to go over where I kind of pencil shaded. Doesn't look real blue, but that's okay because you want to try to get your work to look as 3D as possible. It's too bad that we aren't at school because it would be really neat to see all of these together, kind of like the mural that you guys did in the lunchroom. And go back over this. A little more blue. Oh, I need to make sure I do. Oops. When I do artwork, I have a tendency to kind of skip around. I think that's pretty common. But you always need to bring your eyes back to your still life because you really need to be drawing what you see. I'm going to show you a technique that I also used while I was doing my other drawing. You don't want to go crazy with it. I mean, I want to try really hard to do the shading myself first. But this other technique that can look really nice is you can kind of smudge. And I'm pretty sure that the teacups that I showed you, the one on the right that the artist did, I'm pretty sure they used that technique. In fact, they probably kind of overdid it a little bit. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I could sit here and make you watch me draw this whole thing, but I want you to be able to get started on your own. And remember, whenever you need to pause, that's the beauty of the taped art lesson. Okay, now I'm going to show you the one that I have that's a little further along. So, and there's the green, but you can see that I've got different shades of red and burgundy and then blue and then blue violet. By the way, the color wheels that I saw on the palette are amazing. You guys did a really nice job. Okay, but you can see I really spent a lot of time shading and studying the shading, but I know I could do a better job with that. I want this to be even darker down here. Just makes it more 3D, more dramatic. This is a fun thing that you can do. I mean, maybe some of you probably have parents that are really artistic and they might want to do this. And then you guys might want to try setting up a different still life. So I kind of did some shading and I did some smudging, and now I'm kind of going back and doing even more shading. And like I said, you really need to study your still life. What really are you looking at? Draw what you see, not what you think you see. All right, well, I can't wait to see the results. Until we meet again.